Hello girls, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica Hover and this is my sister Meredith, and we make videos on this channel every single week. Advice videos, family videos. My husband Sean and Eloise are on here. We would love to be an encouragement to you. So if you are new here, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And today's video is about epidural and natural labor. So I gave birth 10 months ago and I gave birth without any medicine, so no epidural. My sister was in the room, so she watched the whole thing. Then 1 month ago, my sister gave birth and she got an epidural. And so what we want to do here is just share with you pros and cons of each. We're not on either camp. In our next baby, we might do the opposite of what we did, but we just want to be able to share with you what our insights are. You can watch our full labor and delivery vlogs to see what happened. I also made a full YouTube video about how to have a baby without an epidural, so you can go watch that. I went into labor on a Wednesday afternoon. I went to the hospital. They said I was definitely in labor, that I could choose to stay at that point and get an epidural, or I could go home and progress naturally. I live near the hospital. I chose to go home. It was really great. I was able to sleep through the night. I could still feel the contractions, but they were mild enough that I could sleep. The next morning, Thursday morning, I woke up. We went for a walk to Starbucks. She and her husband, we all lived together at that point in our life. So we all walked to Starbucks. I could feel the contractions getting more and more intense. Around noon on Thursday, I knew I needed to go back to the hospital. At that point, I got there. I was definitely in labor, needed to stay. I wasn't allowed to leave. I can't remember how dilated I was. I feel like maybe a 3 or a 4. And at that point, they were just gonna monitor my contractions and see if they would continue to progress naturally. By around 7 p.m., my labor had slowed down and my water still hadn't broken. I still had not received an epidural, though I wasn't sure if I would. At that point, they said that they would like to break my water and speed things along. I said yes, and pushing lasted for under an hour. From around 8 to 9 in there is when the pushing got really intense, and then the baby was born at around 9 p.m. Okay, what's your story?
So on Thursday, during the day, I started to have contractions around midnight, so technically Friday morning. I was having contractions and my water actually broke. So we went to the hospital. They confirmed that my water had broken, and they said that I needed to stay at the hospital and walk around and try to make the contractions continue. At around 4 in the morning, the contractions started to slow down and we were really tired, so they put us in a delivery room and we tried to rest. By 6 a.m., the contractions had completely stopped. They decided they were going to induce labor, and at around 9 a.m. is when they induced me. From 9 to about noon on Friday, I progressed naturally, went to about 4 centimeters. They started getting more intense and they asked if I wanted an epidural. I did get an epidural because the doctor recommended it and because I have great friends that got epidurals and they also recommended it. So I got an epidural around noon. So at noon, I took a nap, but things slowed down, and so from noon to about 7:30, I just laid in the bed, and then they checked me and said I was 9.5 centimeters dilated at around 8 o'clock. She was born at 8:38 p.m., so pushing lasted a total of 40 minutes, and she was there.
Yeah, so we both had beautiful baby girls at the end of it, and that's really the goal. So we want to share with you some pros and cons to each. We're going to start with the epidural.
So some pros are that you can actually sleep. That was such a huge thing because we stayed up the night before walking, trying to get contractions going. Also, a pro is that it's kind of fun. You're not really consumed by the pain, so you can carry on conversations with the nurses, with your husband, whoever's in the room, and we had a great time. Yeah, it was just really relaxed. It was very, very calm in the room.
Yeah,
lack of intensity.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
So then what would be some cons?
I've heard, and I think for me as well, is it slows down labor. So it definitely slowed it down. I had gone from a 1 to a 4 in 3 hours, and then for the rest of the way it was like 8 hours.
Slows things down, but you're not in intense pain. So if you can know that, then you can just chill during that time.
In our opinion, it was kind of anticlimactic because it was so calm up until they checked me and I was 9.5 centimeters dilated, and then at that point it was like, okay, time to push, and it was just bam, like it's happening.
Also, it gave her a little bit of time to be afraid because when you're doing it naturally, it all is happening so intensely that you can't really think. You're basically thinking about getting the baby out of you. In her situation, all of a sudden she found out she was gonna be pushing, and I remember getting texts like, oh my gosh, am I gonna be able to do this? Am I gonna be able to be a mom?
Yeah, there's not as much pain, so you actually can think, which is weird. Another thing is I had some back pain in the days following. It was kind of hard sometimes to bend down and lift up the baby, just from where they put in the needle to give me the epidural.
But how was the shot itself? Because that's something I was afraid of.
Actually, it was fine. I had a great anesthesiologist, or whoever gives the epidural. She was awesome. She did it very quick, and it didn't hurt me at all. So really, really good. Another thing is, a con to having an epidural is you're not really able to walk. I could actually stand up and go to the bathroom, but I had to have 2 nurses on either side kind of holding me up. And then another thing is, if you can't walk, then they put a catheter in, which is to make sure that you can go to the bathroom. I didn't want a catheter at all, so I basically had them carry me to the bathroom every time I needed to go.
Why didn't you want a catheter?
Because with a catheter you can get bladder infections, and I was just thinking, recovering from a baby, I didn't want a bladder infection.
I talked to her and I talked to her husband David last night. Overall, the experience with the epidural was pretty awesome, and they would do it again. True?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so pros for natural labor. I would say being able to move around was a big pro for me. I liked that I could feel what was going on inside my body. I did sleep in the very beginning of the contractions, like I said, but as it gets more and more intense, definitely you can't sleep, and you definitely can't watch a movie. So I'm throwing in some cons right there. There's no shot. I liked that actually. I told you in the other video that I was actually a little bit afraid of the epidural, so I liked that I could just go with the flow. And I also enjoyed that there was no risk of bad side effects from the epidural, which I had heard of some friends having really bad side effects. She didn't. And there's also no after effects. My recovery was pretty good, pretty standard. And even right after I had the baby, there was like this kind of energy that came over me, maybe adrenaline. So I wasn't even super exhausted right after the baby came. Cons, it is so intense. A con would be that you can feel that you are squeezing out a baby through a hole that was once like this big. So I'd say that that's a con.
But with that, the pro of that, from being there and being a witness to it, is that it's super climactic. We could see the shift happening from when it was contractions to the moment that they broke her water and we knew that the baby was coming. And that was awesome. It was so fun and
she was
so
there.
beautiful.
Our like Huntington Beach mom, Gina, was there, and Sean was there. And by the end of it, we're all like, oh my gosh, she's here. So so that's climactic. Oh yeah, I would say just that it's super intense even for your spouse. Sean and I talked about it, that if it was just us 2 in the room, we probably would have gone for an epidural. Actually, we definitely would have gone through an epidural because we didn't really know what we were doing. So having Gina there and having Meredith there to like coach us through it made it possible, but you need to know what you're getting yourself into. So all around, we would say go for it. We've heard that your first baby is the hardest, and so what like my sister-in-law did was she did an epidural for the first baby and then she went natural for the second 2. So if you're kind of on the fence, maybe go epidural first and then natural later. For me, I really loved my natural labor, but I'm kind of freaked out now about the next baby because now I know what I'm getting myself into. But yeah, you're gonna be great. Have an awesome labor. We're excited for you and congratulations on your baby. Thanks for watching. Bye!
Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you see here, like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Snapchat and Instagram, and check out my blog. We make new videos here every week. Hey!
Oh, hey. Where did we get these floating icon things?
Cool? I know.
Wait a minute, where's my Snapchat and Instagram?
There it is.
Put those up there.
Alright, thanks so much for watching.
Want some pizza?
Hi, cutie.
No, that's not for babies.